A poor boy took a cleaning job at a biker garage to survive. While wiping down dusty walls, he found a mural of a woman with a hawk tattoo, and froze. That face staring back at him was his mother, who died when he was 7. The bikers went silent, then their leader pulled him aside and said 6 words that shattered everything he believed: "Your mother was our greatest fighter." Jonas pressed the mop against the oil-stained concrete, watching the dirty water spread into the cracks. The Ridgeway biker garage smelled like gasoline, rust, and something else he couldn't name, maybe leather that had soaked up too many years of sweat and road dust. It wasn't the worst place he'd worked. At 15, he'd already cleaned 3 diners, a laundromat, and a grocery store that fired him for being 10 minutes late. This job paid cash. No questions asked. "Kid, you missed a spot," a biker with a gray beard pointed at a puddle near the tool rack. His vest had patches sewn across it, skulls, eagles, words Jonas couldn't read in the dim light. "Got it," Jonas dragged the mop over. The garage was bigger than it looked from outside. Motorcycles lined the walls, some stripped down to their frames, others gleaming like they just rolled off a showroom floor. Men worked in silence, their hands moving over engines with the kind of focus Jonas had only seen in people who loved what they did. Nobody talked much. That suited him fine. "Storage room needs clearing," another biker said, nodding toward a door at the back. "Boxes, old parts. Stack 'em by the dumpster." Jonas grabbed a flashlight from the workbench and headed in. The storage room was worse than the garage, darker, dustier, crammed with shelves that looked ready to collapse. He sneezed twice before he even got to the first box. He was dragging a crate of rusted chains toward the door when the flashlight beam swept across the far wall. Jonas stopped. The mop slipped from his hand and clattered against the floor. On the wall, someone had painted a mural. Not graffiti, real art. A woman stood in the center, her face turned slightly to the side, eyes sharp and focused like she was staring down something dangerous. Her dark hair was pulled back tight. Her jaw was set hard. And on her right shoulder, visible where her leather vest hung open, was a tattoo of a hawk in flight. Jonas knew that face. He'd seen it every night for 8 years, in the photograph Lucy kept on the living room shelf. The one she dusted every Sunday. The one she told him was all they had left. His mother. The flashlight trembled in his hand. His throat closed up. He took a step closer, then another, until he was standing right in front of the mural. The paint was old, cracked in places, but the face was clear. The hawk tattoo was exact. Even the small scar above her left eyebrow, the one Lucy said she got falling off a bike when she was 12. Jonas. He spun around. The bearded biker stood in the doorway. Behind him, 3 others had gathered, their faces shadowed. "You know her?" The bearded man's voice wasn't harsh. "Just careful." Jonas couldn't speak. His chest felt tight. "I asked you a question, kid." "That's," his voice cracked. He swallowed and tried again. "That's my mom." The bikers exchanged glances. One of them muttered something Jonas didn't catch. The bearded man stepped into the room. Up close, Jonas could see his vest had a name patch, Saint. "Drop the mop," Saint said quietly. "Come with me." "Why is her picture on your wall?" Jonas's voice came out louder than he meant. "Why do you have her face painted like that?" "Not here," Saint turned and walked out. Jonas looked back at the mural. His mother stared past him, frozen in paint, holding secrets he'd never known she had. He followed. Saint led him through the garage and into a side office. The room was small, cluttered with trophies, old helmets hanging from hooks, and photographs pinned to a corkboard. One wall had a map of the state, marked with red pins. Saint closed the door and sat on the edge of a metal desk. "Sit down." Jonas stayed standing. "Tell me why you have her picture." What did your guardian tell you about your mother? Lucy said she was a waitress. She died in a car accident when I was 7. Jonas's hands curled into fists. Why? Saint rubbed his jaw, studying Jonas like he was deciding something important. That mural isn't random art, he said finally. It's our emblem. Every club has one. Ours is modeled after the strongest fighter we ever had. He paused. Falcon. Jonas blinked. What? Your mother's road name. Falcon. My mom wasn't a biker. She was more than that. You're lying. Saint stood and pulled a photograph from the corkboard. He handed it to Jonas. The image showed a younger version of his mother standing between two motorcycles, her arms crossed, wearing the same leather vest from the mural. She looked fierce. Confident. Nothing like the soft-faced woman in Lucy's photograph. She worked at the diner, Saint said. But that was her cover. Her real work? She was part of a network that pulled people out of bad situations. Very bad situations. Jonas stared at the photo. His mother's eyes looked different here, harder, but also alive in a way he'd never seen. I don't understand. You don't have to. Not yet. Saint took the photo back and pinned it carefully to the board. But if you're going to work here, you need to know that name means something. Falcon wasn't just a biker. She was a legend. Then why didn't she tell me? Jonas's voice shook. Why did she let me think she was just? Because legends die young, kid. And mothers want their sons to live. Jonas felt something crack inside his chest. He turned and walked out of the office, past the bikers who watched him with unreadable faces, past the motorcycles and tools and oil stains. He didn't stop until he was 3 blocks away, standing under a broken streetlight, trying to breathe. His mother had been a fighter. A legend. And she'd never told him. Jonas didn't sleep that night. He lay on the thin mattress in his room, staring at the water stain on the ceiling that looked like a bird with broken wings. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the mural, his mother's face, painted like a warrior, surrounded by bikers who spoke her name like it meant something sacred. Lucy was already gone when he woke up. She worked double shifts at the hospital most days, leaving before dawn and coming home after dark. Jonas was used to it. He made toast, burned it, ate it anyway. The hawk tattoo stayed in his mind. He'd never seen it in real life. In the photograph Lucy kept, his mother wore a cardigan. Her smile was gentle. She looked like someone who baked cookies and read bedtime stories, not someone who rode motorcycles with men covered in scars. Jonas grabbed his backpack and headed for the door. Then stopped. The photograph sat on the shelf, same as always. He picked it up, studying his mother's face like he was meeting a stranger. Had she been pretending when this was taken? Or had the version in the mural been the lie? He didn't know which answer scared him more. The garage looked different in daylight. Less menacing. Just a rundown shop with faded paint and motorcycles that had seen better days. Saint stood outside, smoking a cigarette. He didn't look surprised when Jonas walked up. Thought you might not come back. I need answers. Jonas stopped a few feet away, keeping his distance. Real ones. Saint took a long drag, then crushed the cigarette under his boot. You hungry? What? There's a diner 2 blocks over. Food's decent. We can talk there. Jonas hesitated. I'm supposed to work. You're not cleaning today. Saint started walking. Come on. They walked in silence. The neighborhood was quiet this time of day, a few cars passing, a dog barking somewhere, an old woman sweeping her porch. Normal life, happening like the world hadn't just tilted sideways. The diner was small, with cracked vinyl booths and a waitress who looked like she'd been working there since before Jonas was born. Saint ordered coffee and eggs. Jonas asked for water. You're too young to be this serious, Saint said when the waitress left. You told me my dead mother was a fighter. Fair point, Saint leaned back, his leather vest creaking. What do you want to know? Everything. That'll take more than breakfast. Start somewhere. Saint studied him for a long moment. Then he pulled something from his pocket and slid it across the table. A patch, copper-colored, shaped like a hawk with its wings spread wide. This was hers, Saint said. Every member of the Falcon's wing wore one. Still do. Jonas touched the edge of the patch. The stitching was worn but careful, like someone had spent hours getting it right. Falcon's wing? The inner circle. Your mother led it, Saint's voice dropped lower. There's things in this world that don't make the news, kid. Underground fights. Not the kind with rules and referees, the kind where people get bought and sold like livestock. Where kids disappear and nobody looks for them because nobody knows they existed. Jonas's stomach tightened. Your mother infiltrated one of those operations. Took her 2 years to earn their trust. She fought in their arenas, won enough matches that they thought she was one of them. And while they weren't looking, she helped their fighters escape. Teenagers, mostly. Kids who'd been trafficked, forced to fight for money they'd never see. The waitress brought their food. Jonas couldn't look at it. How many? He asked quietly. 17 confirmed. Maybe more we don't know about, Saint cut into his eggs. She became a legend in both worlds, the underground knew her as unbeatable, and the people she saved knew her as their only way out. Then why? Jonas's voice caught. He cleared his throat. Why did she die? If she was so good at it? Saint's fork stopped halfway to his mouth. He set it down carefully. Who said she died in a car accident? Lucy. My guardian. Lucy tell you anything else? Just that my mom loved me. That she didn't want to leave. Jonas felt heat behind his eyes and blinked it away. Was that a lie too? No, Saint's voice turned hard. That part was true. Your mother loved you more than anything in this world. That's why she did what she did. Which was what? Saint picked up his coffee, took a sip, and looked out the window like he was deciding how much truth Jonas could handle. She made a choice, he said finally. The kind of choice that means you never see your kid again, but you know he gets to grow up safe. She picked you over everything else she'd built. Over the club, over the fights, over being Falcon. Jonas shook his head. That doesn't make sense. If she wanted me safe, why did she leave? Because staying would have gotten you killed. The words hung in the air between them. Saint stood up, threw cash on the table, and headed for the door. Jonas sat frozen for 3 seconds before scrambling after him. Wait, what does that mean? Who would have killed me? Saint stopped on the sidewalk and turned. His face looked older in the sunlight, creased with years of things he didn't talk about. The same people who are looking for you right now. Jonas walked home in a daze, Saint's words looping through his mind like a song he couldn't stop hearing. The same people who are looking for you right now. He'd asked what that meant, but Saint had just shaken his head and told him to go home. Lock the doors. Stay inside until tomorrow. Like that explained anything. The apartment was still empty when he got back. Lucy's shift didn't end until 8. Jonas dropped his backpack by the door and went straight to the shelf, grabbing the photograph of his mother. He turned it over. Nothing written on the back. Just blank cardboard and dust. He set it down and opened his backpack to grab his phone. The copper hawk patch fell out. Jonas stared at it lying on the floor. He hadn't put it in there. He'd left it on the diner table when Saint walked out. Someone must have slipped it in while he wasn't looking. He picked it up, turning it over in his hands. The stitching was intricate, tiny loops of thread forming feathers, talons, fierce eyes. On the back, someone had sewn a small cloth label with faded ink, F7. F for Falcon. But what did the 7 mean? The front door opened. Jonas shoved the patch into his pocket as Lucy walked in, already pulling off her hospital badge. She looked exhausted, her scrubs wrinkled, her hair falling out of its ponytail. "Hey, baby. You eat?" She dropped her purse on the counter and headed for the fridge. "Yeah." Jonas stayed by the shelf, watching her. "Lucy, can I ask you something?" Course. She pulled out leftover pasta and grabbed a fork. "Did my mom ever ride motorcycles?" Lucy's hand froze on the container. For just a second, less than a heartbeat, her whole body went still. Then she turned, forcing a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Why would you ask that?" "Just wondering. Your mama worked at Betty's Diner. You know that." Lucy opened the container and stabbed at the pasta, not looking at him. "Where's this coming from?" Jonas pulled the patch from his pocket and held it up. Lucy dropped the fork. It clattered against the counter, sauce splattering across the laminate. "Where did you get that?" Her voice came out sharp, almost afraid. "Found it. At my job." Jonas took a step closer. "What is it?" Lucy crossed the kitchen in 3 strides and snatched the patch from his hand. She stared at it like it might burn her, then looked up at Jonas with something close to panic in her eyes. "You're working at a garage." "Which one?" "Ridgeway. It's just cleaning work, Oh God." Lucy pressed her hand to her mouth. "Oh God, Jonas, no. What's wrong?" She turned away from him, gripping the counter. Her shoulders shook. Jonas realized she was crying. "Lucy? I promised her." Lucy's voice broke. "I promised I'd keep you away from that life. I promised you'd never have to know." Jonas felt something cold settle in his chest. "Know what?" Lucy wiped her eyes and turned back to him. When she spoke, her voice was steadier, but her hands trembled as she held out the patch. "Your mama wasn't a waitress." "I mean, she was, but that wasn't." She took a shaky breath. "She was part of something bigger. Something dangerous. The Falcon's wing." Lucy's eyes widened. "They told you?" "Some of it. Not enough." Jonas took the patch back. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because she died protecting you from it." Lucy's voice rose, cracking with emotion. "She gave up everything, her crew, her purpose, her whole identity, so you could have a normal life. So you wouldn't grow up thinking violence was the answer to everything." "What violence?" "Saint said she helped people escape." "She did." Lucy sank into a chair, suddenly looking much older. "Your mama was part of a vigilante network. They targeted underground fighting rings, the kind where people get trafficked and forced to fight for other people's money. Real brutal stuff, Jonas. The kind that gets people killed." Jonas sat down across from her. "How do you know all this?" "Because I was her emergency contact. The person she trusted to take you if anything happened." Lucy reached across the table and grabbed his hand. "When you were 7, she came to me in the middle of the night. Said the syndicate had found out she was helping their fighters escape. They'd put a target on her back, and on you." "On me?" "I was just a kid." "That's exactly why. They knew the best way to hurt her was through you." Lucy squeezed his hand tighter. "So she made a plan. Faked a car accident, made it look like she died, and disappeared. The bikers helped her, they spread the word she was dead, held a funeral, everything. Meanwhile, she went underground, finished getting the last few fighters out, then vanished for real." Jonas pulled his hand back. "You're telling me she's been alive this whole time?" "No, baby." Lucy's eyes filled with tears again. "She died 3 years after the accident. I got a letter from Saint, telling me she was gone for real. Some kind of infection from an old fight wound. She died alone, Jonas, because she couldn't risk coming back to you. The room went silent except for the hum of the refrigerator. Jonas looked down at the patch in his hand. F7. Falcon's 7th year? Her 7th rescue? It didn't matter. What mattered was that his mother had lived 3 years thinking he believed she was already dead. Why didn't she come back after? His voice sounded hollow. After she got everyone out? The syndicate has a long memory, Lucy whispered. She couldn't risk it. Not while you were still young. Jonas stood up, the chair scraping against the floor. Where are you going? To get the rest of the truth. Jonas found Saint at the same diner 2 days later. He'd gone back to the garage, but it had been closed, metal shutters down, no bikes outside, like the place had been abandoned. He'd waited on the corner for 6 hours before finally giving up. But he knew Saint would come back here eventually. Men like that were creatures of habit. Sure enough, Saint walked in just after sunset, settling into the same booth he'd used before. He didn't look surprised when Jonas slid into the seat across from him. Lucy tell you? Saint asked. Enough. Jonas pulled out the hawk patch and set it on the table between them. But I want to hear it from you. The real version, not the one she tried to soften. The waitress came over. Saint ordered coffee and pie. Jonas shook his head when she looked at him. You should eat something, Saint said after she left. I'm not hungry. I'm angry. Fair. Saint leaned back, studying Jonas with those sharp, weathered eyes. What do you want to know? Everything you didn't tell me before. How bad it really was. What she actually did. Jonas's jaw tightened. And why the hell she thought leaving me was better than staying. Saint was quiet until the waitress brought his order. He took a sip of coffee, grimaced like it was too hot, then set the cup down carefully. You know what a concrete pit is? Jonas shook his head. It's where they held the fights. Underground parking garages, mostly. Old warehouses. Basements of buildings that don't officially exist anymore. They'd put up chain-link walls, pack in a crowd, and throw 2 people in the center. Saint's voice stayed level, but his eyes went distant. No rules. No stopping. You fight until someone can't get up, or until someone's dead. Whichever comes first. Jonas's stomach turned. They trafficked kids, teenagers, mostly, and forced them to fight. If you won, you got to eat. If you lost, you fought again the next night with broken ribs and concussions. Some nights, you'd fight twice. Saint picked up his fork but didn't use it. Your mother fought in those pits for 18 months before they trusted her enough to let her near the holding cells. 18 months? She took real beatings, Jonas. Broke her arm twice, shattered her collarbone, lost 2 teeth. All so she could earn their trust and get close to the kids they were using. Saint finally took a bite of pie, chewed slowly, swallowed. She won more than she lost, though. Got good at reading opponents, finding their weak spots. The syndicate started betting big money on her fights. And that's when she started helping people escape? Yeah. She'd win a fight, get access to the recovery area where they kept the fighters between matches. She'd slip them information, safe houses, phone numbers, routes out of the city. The Falcons wing had a whole network set up. We'd get a call, pick up a kid at a gas station or rest stop, and disappear them before the syndicate noticed they were gone. Jonas leaned forward. How many did she save? 17 confirmed. But there were probably more we don't know about. Kids who ran on their own using the information she gave them. Saint met Jonas's eyes. She became a legend on both sides. The syndicate called her Falcon because she moved fast and hit hard. The kids she saved called her that because she gave them wings. Then why did she run? Jonas's voice rose despite himself. If she was winning, if she was actually saving people, Why did she fake her death and leave me behind? Because the syndicate figured it out. The words landed heavy between them. Saint pushed his plate aside. One of the kids she saved got caught 3 months later, picked up by police in another state. During questioning, he mentioned Falcon helped him escape. The police didn't know what that meant, but someone in the department was on the syndicate's payroll. Word got back. And they came after her? Worse. They came after the people she saved. Saint's voice dropped lower. 3 kids turned up dead in 1 week. All of them had been helped by your mother. The message was clear, they weren't just going to kill her. They were going to kill everyone she'd ever cared about. Jonas felt ice in his veins. The syndicate started tracking her movements outside the fights. They found out about you, your school, your home address, everything. One of our guys intercepted a conversation about using you to force her back into the pit permanently, turning her into their property. Saint's hands curled into fists on the table. That's when she made the call. She couldn't keep fighting and keep you safe. She had to choose. So she chose to disappear. She chose you. Saint's voice turned fierce. Don't twist that, kid. She didn't run because she was scared or weak. She ran because staying meant watching you die. And your mother would have fought the devil himself before she let that happen. Jonas stared at the hawk patch on the table. The copper caught the diner's fluorescent light, making it look almost alive. Did she regret it? He asked quietly. Saint was silent for a long moment. Every single day, he finally said. But she never regretted keeping you alive. Jonas picked up the patch and stood. His legs felt shaky, but he stayed upright. Where are you going? Saint asked. Home. To think. Saint's voice stopped him at the edge of the booth. Your mother was the strongest person I ever knew. Not because she could fight, because she knew when to walk away. Jonas didn't respond. He walked out of the diner and into the cool night air, carrying the weight of a truth he wasn't sure he wanted. Jonas woke to pebbles hitting his window. He checked his phone, 4:47 a.m. Still dark outside. He stumbled to the window and looked down. Saint stood in the alley below, his breath visible in the cold air. He gestured for Jonas to come down. Jonas pulled on jeans and a hoodie, moving quietly so he wouldn't wake Lucy. He slipped out the apartment door and took the stairs 2 at a time. What's wrong? Jonas asked when he reached the alley. Nothing's wrong. But if you want real answers, you need to come with me now. Saint was already walking toward a motorcycle parked at the curb. Questions later. Get on. Jonas hesitated only a second before climbing on behind him. They rode through empty streets, the city still sleeping. Street lights flashed past in rhythm. The cold air bit at Jonas's face, making his eyes water. He'd never been on a motorcycle before. It felt like flying and falling at the same time. 20 minutes later, they pulled up to an old apartment building on the east side, the kind with rusty fire escapes and windows covered in blankets instead of curtains. Saint killed the engine and led Jonas around back to a metal staircase that climbed 5 floors to the roof. Where are we going? Up. The roof was flat, covered in gravel and tar paper. But it wasn't empty. A circle of people stood near the center, 15, maybe 20 of them. All wearing leather vests. All watching as Saint and Jonas approached. Jonas's heart hammered. This felt like a trap, or a trial, or something he didn't have a name for. This is him. A woman with silver hair and scarred knuckles stepped forward. Her vest had more patches than anyone else's. Falcon's kid? This is Jonas, Saint said. Jonas, this is the Falcon's wing. What's left of it, anyway? The circle opened, letting them in. Jonas found himself standing in the center, surrounded by faces he didn't know. Some old, some young. all of them looking at him like he was either a ghost or a bomb about to go off. "Why did you bring him here?" A tall man with a shaved head spoke up. "This breaks protocol. Falcon wanted him kept separate." "Falcon's dead," Saint said flatly. "And the syndicate knows about him. Protocol doesn't matter anymore." Murmurs rippled through the circle. "What do you mean they know?" the silver-haired woman demanded. "We've had eyes on his school, his apartment. 2 days ago, someone started asking questions about Jonas in his neighborhood. Description matches syndicate scouts." Saint's voice stayed calm, but Jonas heard the edge underneath. "They're probing. Testing to see if the rumors are true, if Falcon really had a son." Jonas felt the ground tilt. "You've been watching me?" "Since you were 7, Saint said. "We promised your mother we'd keep you safe from a distance. That meant staying invisible." "Until now," the bald man said. "Until you hired him at the garage and put him right in the open." "I didn't hire him. He showed up on his own." Saint turned to face the man. "And he saw the mural. That's on us for keeping it up." "We're not taking it down," the silver-haired woman said sharply. "Falcon earned that memorial. I'm not asking you to." Saint looked around the circle. "But the kid deserves to know the truth. All of it. Including why we faked his mother's death." The woman's expression softened slightly. She looked at Jonas, really looked at him, and something painful crossed her face. "You have her eyes," she said quietly. Jonas didn't know what to say. She stepped closer. "My name is Reyna. I rode with your mother for 6 years. She saved my daughter from the pits." Her voice caught. "Your mother was the bravest person I ever knew. Then why did she leave me?" The question burst out of Jonas before he could stop it. "Everyone keeps telling me how strong she was, how brave, how much she loved me, but she still left." "Strong people don't run. Strong people run when staying means everyone they love dies," Reyna said. "The syndicate didn't just threaten you, Jonas. They threatened every single person your mother ever saved. 17 kids, teenagers with whole lives ahead of them. The syndicate said if she didn't come back and fight exclusively for them, they'd hunt down every escapee and kill them slowly." Jonas's breath caught. "She had a choice," Reyna continued. "Go back and become their property, fighting until she died in the pit. Or disappear, make them think she was already dead, and hope they'd leave everyone else alone." "But they still killed 3 people, Jonas said, remembering what Saint told him. "They killed 3 before she faked her death," the bald man corrected. "After the accident, after the funeral, after we spread word that Falcon was gone, the killing stopped. The syndicate moved on. Found other fighters, other operations. Your mother's disappearance saved 14 lives. Plus yours," Saint added. Jonas felt like he was standing in the center of something much bigger than himself, a story that started before he was born and hadn't ended when his mother died. "If she was so important," he said slowly, "why didn't she come back after? You said she lived 3 more years. Why didn't she come home?" The circle went quiet. Reyna exchanged a look with Saint. Something unspoken passed between them. "Because," Saint said carefully, "we told her the syndicate was still watching you. We told her it wasn't safe yet." Jonas's stomach dropped. Was that true? Saint's silence was answer enough. "You lied to her?" Jonas's voice rose. "You kept her away from me when she didn't have to be?" "We kept her alive," Reyna said firmly. "The syndicate had informants everywhere, Jonas. If she'd come back, if she'd been seen with you even once, it would have confirmed their suspicions. They would have come for both of you. She died alone because you were afraid. She died safe," Saint said. "And so did you. That was the deal." Jonas looked around the circle, at these people who'd known his mother, fought beside her, loved her. who'd also lied to her to keep her away from her own son. "If you wanted me safe," Jonas said, his voice shaking, "why tell me any of this now? Why not just let me keep thinking she died in an accident?" Reyna stepped forward and placed something in his hand. A phone. Old, cracked screen, but powered on. "Because your mother left something for you," she said softly. "And we think it's time you saw it." Jonas stared at the phone in his hand, but before he could turn it on, Saint's own phone buzzed. Then another. Then 3 more went off around the circle like dominoes falling. Saint pulled his phone out, looked at the screen, and his face went hard. "Everyone off the roof. Now." "What is it?" Reyna moved beside him, reading over his shoulder. "Oh, God. What's happening?" Jonas asked, but the circle was already breaking apart, people moving fast toward the stairs. Saint grabbed Jonas's shoulder. "We need to get you out of here. Tell me what's going on." The warehouse. Saint was already pulling him toward the stairs. "Our main safe house. Someone just torched it." They descended the fire escape in a controlled rush, boots clanging on metal. Jonas nearly tripped twice trying to keep up. By the time they reached ground level, half the group was already on motorcycles, engines roaring to life. "Take him home," Reyna shouted over the noise. "Keep him away from this." "No," Jonas pulled away from Saint. "If this has something to do with my mother." "It has everything to do with her," Saint said. "Which is exactly why you need to stay out of it." But Jonas was already climbing onto the back of Saint's bike. Saint swore under his breath, then kicked the engine to life. "Hold on tight, and if I tell you to run, you run. Understand?" Jonas nodded. They rode in formation, 8 bikes moving through the city like a pack of wolves. The sky was starting to lighten, that gray moment before dawn when everything looks washed out and unreal. They cut through downtown, past closed shops and early morning joggers, heading toward the industrial district on the south side. Jonas smelled the smoke before he saw it. The warehouse sat at the end of a dead-end street, surrounded by chain-link fence. Or it used to be a warehouse. Now it was a burning shell, flames eating through the roof, black smoke pouring into the morning sky. 2 fire trucks were already there, hoses trained on the blaze. Saint stopped his bike a block away. The others pulled up beside him, engines idling. "Stay here," Saint told Jonas. This time Jonas didn't argue. He watched as Saint and Reyna walked toward the fire line, flashing something to one of the firefighters. They talked for a few minutes, too far away for Jonas to hear. Then they walked along the fence line to the back of the lot. Jonas got off the bike. Another biker, a younger guy with a bandana and nervous energy, stood nearby. "What was in there?" Jonas asked him. "Storage, mostly. Old records, equipment. Some of us crashed there when we needed a place to stay." The guy shook his head. "Someone knew exactly what they were hitting." "You think it was the syndicate?" "Who else?" Saint and Reyna came back looking grim. Saint motioned for everyone to circle up, away from the firefighters and any curious onlookers. "Arson," Saint said quietly. Accelerant poured along the exits, time to go up at dawn. "Professional work." "Anyone inside?" someone asked. "No. Lucky break, nobody's used it as a crash pad in 2 weeks." Saint pulled something from his pocket. A piece of paper, singed at the edges. "But they left this nailed to the fence." He held it up so everyone could see. In thick black marker, someone had written, "The bird had a son." Jonas felt every eye turn toward him. "They know," Reyna said. "They know he exists, and they know we've had contact with him." "How?" the bald man demanded. "We've been careful. Nobody's talked." "Doesn't matter how," Saint said. "What matters is they're sending a message. They burned the warehouse because it was connected to Falcon. Now they're telling us they know about Jonas. We need to move him, Reyna said. Tonight. Get him out of the city. No, Jonas stepped forward. I'm not running. Kid, this isn't a debate. My mother ran to protect me, and she spent 3 years hiding because you told her to. Jonas's voice came out stronger than he felt. I'm not doing that. I'm not spending my life looking over my shoulder. Then you'll spend a very short life in a concrete pit, the bald man said harshly. That's what they do, kid. They find leverage and they use it. You're leverage now. Marcus is right, Saint said, though he didn't look happy about it. If they know about you, they'll use you to hurt us. Or they'll try to recruit you. Make you into what your mother fought against. Why would they want me? I can't fight. You're Falcon's son, Reyna said quietly. In their world, that's mythology. They'll want to prove they can break you like they couldn't break her. Or they'll want to turn you into their fighter, undo everything she stood for. Jonas looked at the burning warehouse, at the smoke rising into the dawn sky, at the message on that piece of paper. His mother had tried to protect him by disappearing. These people had tried to protect him by keeping him ignorant. And now the very thing they'd all feared had happened anyway. How long? Jonas asked. What? How long have you known they were getting close? Saint and Reyna exchanged another look. 2 weeks, Saint admitted. We've been tracking chatter, following scouts. We knew something was building. And you didn't tell me. We were trying to keep you safe. Jonas laughed, but it came out bitter. How's that working out? Before anyone could answer, another phone buzzed. Then another. The group checked their messages simultaneously, and Jonas watched their faces change, confusion turning to anger, turning to something that looked like fear. What now? Jonas asked. Saint turned his phone so Jonas could see the screen. A video message, sent from an unknown number. The preview image showed a concrete room with chain-link walls. A fighting pit. Saint hit play. A distorted voice spoke over the image. Falcon flew away. But her chick is still in the nest. We'll be watching. Tell him we remember his mother fondly. Tell him we have unfinished business. The video ended. Jonas stared at the screen, his mouth dry. They're not just watching anymore, Reyna said. They're hunting. Saint took Jonas to a place that didn't exist on any map. They'd left the burning warehouse behind, splitting up from the rest of the group for safety. Saint drove in silence, taking turns that seemed random until Jonas realized they were being careful, doubling back, checking for tails, making sure nobody followed. They ended up in a neighborhood Jonas didn't recognize, old brick buildings with barred windows and graffiti that had been painted over so many times the walls looked like abstract art. Saint parked in an alley behind what looked like an abandoned gym. This way. They went through a side door that Saint unlocked with 3 different keys. Inside, the air smelled like old sweat and liniment. Punching bags hung from chains in the dim light. A boxing ring sat in the center, its ropes frayed but intact. What is this place? Jonas asked. Recovery Center. For fighters who got out, Saint led him past the ring toward a hallway in the back. Your mother helped set it up. Gave people a place to heal, learn to fight differently. For themselves instead of for someone else's money. The hallway was lined with lockers, most of them dented and scratched. Saint stopped at one near the end, number 17. The lock had been cut off years ago. This was hers. Jonas stepped closer. The locker door hung slightly open, like it was waiting. Go ahead, Saint said. Jonas pulled the door wide. Inside, the metal was covered in photographs, some taped, some held by magnets. He recognized a few faces from the rooftop circle. Others he'd never seen. Young people, mostly. Teenagers with bruised faces and uncertain smiles. The ones she saved, Saint said quietly. She kept their pictures. Wanted to remember why she did it. On the shelf inside sat a pair of cracked leather gloves, worn thin at the knuckles. A vest with the hawk patch sewn on the back. And a phone, newer than the one Reyna had given him, but still outdated. Jonas picked up the gloves. They were smaller than he expected. His mother's hands had been small too, he remembered. She used to cup his face when she kissed him goodnight. The phone has video files, Saint said. Encrypted. Took us 2 years after she died to crack the code. When we finally did, he paused. We realized she'd been documenting everything. Every fight, every rescue, every piece of evidence she collected against the syndicate. Why? Insurance. She knew if something happened to her, someone needed to be able to finish what she started. Saint leaned against the lockers. There's something else in there. A list. Jonas set down the gloves and picked up the phone. The screen lit up, battery still half full, like someone had been charging it. The background was a photo of a hawk in flight against a blue sky. He found the files easily. Dozens of videos, all labeled with dates and codes he didn't understand. But there was also a document titled simply, Still Breathing. Jonas opened it. Names filled the screen. 17 of them, each with a date next to it. The dates ranged from 12 years ago to 8 years ago, the span of his mother's work. Those are the people she saved, Saint said. And next to each name is the last date we confirmed they were alive and safe. Jonas scrolled through the list. The most recent confirmation was from 6 months ago. All of them? Jonas's voice came out rough. All 17 are still alive? Every single one. Some of them have families now. Jobs. Normal lives. Saint moved beside him, pointing at a name halfway down. That one's a nurse in California. This one's a mechanic in Montana. This one teaches high school English in Tennessee. Jonas stared at the names, these ghosts his mother had saved, these lives she'd given second chances to. She never told me, Jonas said. She could have told me she was doing something important. Something that mattered. She wanted you to think she was ordinary, Saint said. Because ordinary mothers get to watch their kids grow up. Heroes die young, and she wanted to live. But she didn't. No. She didn't. Jonas scrolled back to the top of the list. A name caught his eye, Marcus Cole. The date next to it was 13 years ago. Is that? Yeah. The bald guy from earlier. Your mother pulled him out when he was 16. He'd been fighting for 2 years, had a broken jaw and 3 cracked ribs. She got him out, brought him here, and he healed. Then he joined the wing to help her do the same for others. Jonas looked around the gym with new eyes. How many people had been healed here? How many broken bodies had his mother helped put back together? Why did she keep fighting in the pits? Jonas asked. After she started rescuing people, why didn't she just stop? Get out before they figured it out? Saint was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was careful, like he was walking on glass. Because they kept bringing in new kids. Every time she saved one, they'd traffic 2 more. She couldn't walk away while that was happening. It wasn't in her nature. So she just kept going until they caught her. She kept going until she had you. Then she had to choose. Saint put his hand on Jonas's shoulder. Your mother didn't quit because she was weak, Jonas. She quit because she finally had something more important than the fight. Jonas closed the phone and looked at the photographs covering the locker door. 17 faces. 17 lives. All because his mother had been strong enough to step into a concrete pit over and over again. The syndicate wants revenge, Jonas said slowly. Not just on me. On everyone she saved. That's what the video meant, unfinished business. Saint's silence confirmed it. They're going to come after these people, Jonas said, gesturing to the list on the phone. Because of me. Because now they know she had a son and you've all been protecting me. We're working on securing everyone. Getting them out of sight. It won't be enough, Jonas turned to face Saint. They burned your warehouse. They found me. They're going to keep pushing until someone breaks. Then we don't break. Jonas looked back at his mother's locker, at the gloves she'd worn, at the faces of the people she'd saved. She kept evidence, he said. In these videos. Evidence that could take down the syndicate. Yeah, but. Then we use it. We finish what she started. Saint shook his head. You're 15 years old. I'm Falcon's son, Jonas said, surprised by the steadiness in his own voice. And I'm done hiding. Jonas didn't go home that night. He told Saint he needed to use the bathroom, then slipped out the gym's back exit while Saint was on the phone with Raina. He had the phone from his mother's locker in his pocket, the one with all the evidence. And he had a plan that would probably get him killed. The videos his mother had recorded showed faces. Locations. Dates. Men in suits watching fights, placing bets, exchanging money. She documented everything from the inside, and if Saint was right about the encryption being cracked 2 years ago, then the Falcon's wing had been sitting on this evidence without using it. They were too careful. Too protective. Jonas needed to be reckless. He found an internet cafe still open in a neighborhood where nobody asked questions. Paid cash for an hour of computer time. The guy behind the counter didn't even look up from his phone. Jonas had spent enough time online to know where the underground forums lived, the dark corners of the internet where people bought and sold things that weren't legal. He'd never actually visited them before, but he knew how to find them. It took him 20 minutes to locate the right forum. A place where fighters, bettors, and organizers talked in code about events and venues. He created an anonymous account, then posted in the general discussion thread. Falcon's chick still remembers how to fly. Iron Yard. Midnight. Come alone and we'll talk about unfinished business. He used his mother's road name deliberately. If the syndicate was monitoring these forums, and he was betting they were, they'd see it within minutes. Jonas logged off, paid for a bottle of water he didn't drink, and walked back out into the night. His phone buzzed immediately. Lucy calling. He silenced it. Then it buzzed again. A text from a number he didn't recognize. Where are you? Saint. Somehow he'd gotten Jonas's number. Jonas typed back, finishing what she started. Don't follow me. He turned off his phone. The Iron Yard was an abandoned shipping facility on the waterfront, all rusted cranes and stacked containers covered in gull droppings. Jonas had heard about it from kids at school, the place where people went to do things they didn't want witnessed. Drug deals. Fights. Things that required darkness and the sound of water to cover screams. It was only 9 p.m. He had 3 hours. Jonas found a spot behind a shipping container where he could watch the entrance. He sat down, back against the cold metal, and opened his mother's phone again. He scrolled through the videos, watching pieces of her secret life. His mother in the fighting pit, circling an opponent twice her size. His mother talking quietly to a terrified teenager through chain link. His mother counting money with men whose faces she'd carefully kept in frame. In one video, she spoke directly to the camera. Her face was bruised, one eye swollen shut. But her voice was steady. If you're watching this, I'm probably dead. That's okay. I made my choices. She wiped blood from her lip. But the people in these videos, the ones placing bets, running the fights, trafficking the kids, they're still out there. Someone needs to stop them. Someone needs to make sure what happened to these kids never happens again. She leaned closer to the camera. Whoever you are, don't try to fight them alone. They're too big, too connected. Take this evidence to someone who can use it properly. Federal agents, journalists, someone with power. Promise me you won't try to be a hero." The video ended. Jonas closed his eyes and leaned his head back against the container. "Sorry, Mom," he whispered. "I'm not good at keeping promises." Footsteps on gravel made him freeze. Multiple sets of them, moving fast. Jonas peered around the edge of the container and saw shadows converging on his position, at least 6 people, moving with the coordination of a team that had done this before. His heart hammered. The syndicate couldn't have found him this fast. He'd only posted an hour ago, and he'd been careful. "Jonas Reed, you've got 5 seconds to show yourself before I drag you out." Saint's voice. Not the syndicate. Jonas stood up slowly, raising his hands. "How did you find me?" Saint emerged from the shadows with Reyna and 4 others from the Falcon's wing. They didn't look happy. "You think we don't monitor those forums?" Saint grabbed Jonas by the shoulder, not gently. "You think we're amateurs? I posted anonymously. You used your mother's signature phrase. Unfinished business." She used that exact wording in her last message to the syndicate before she disappeared. Reyna's voice was ice. Anyone who knew Falcon would recognize it immediately. "That was the point," Jonas said. "I wanted them to know it was real. I wanted them to come." "So you could do what, exactly?" Saint's grip tightened. "Fight them? You don't know how. Negotiate? You have nothing they want except yourself. Die heroically? Because that's the only way this ends, kid. I have the evidence. I was going to trade it for a promise they'll leave everyone alone." Reyna shook her head. "The syndicate doesn't make deals, Jonas. They make examples. Your mother learned that the hard way." Jonas pulled away from Saint. "So what, I just hide forever? Let them burn down everything she built while I pretend to be normal?" "You stay alive," Saint said. "That's what she wanted. That's what she died for. She died alone and scared, 3 years after giving up everything she cared about." Jonas's voice cracked. "Is that what you want for me? To spend my whole life running from people who are already coming?" The group went silent. Finally, Marcus, the bald man from the rooftop, spoke up. "The kid's got a point. They know about him now. Hiding won't work anymore. So what do you suggest?" Saint asked sharply. "We do what Falcon would have done," Marcus said. "We go on offense. But we do it smart, and we do it together." Jonas looked at Saint. "What's smart look like?" Saint stared at him for a long moment, then sighed like a man accepting defeat. "Not using yourself as bait," he said. "And definitely not posting on forums that the syndicate monitors." He pulled out his own phone. "But if we're going to draw them out, we'll need a better trap than an empty shipping yard at midnight." "What did you have in mind?" Reyna asked. Saint's smile was sharp and dangerous. "We give them exactly what they asked for. A meeting at Iron Yard. But instead of Jonas walking in alone, they'll find something they really don't want to see. Which is proof that Falcon's evidence is about to go public." They had 2 hours to set up. The Falcon's wing moved through the shipping yard like ghosts, each member taking a position among the rusted containers and silent cranes. No motorcycles this time, they'd parked blocks away and come in on foot. Silence was the weapon now. Jonas crouched behind a forklift with Saint, watching Reyna coordinate positions through hand signals. Marcus scaled a container stack with a pair of binoculars. Others disappeared into shadows Jonas couldn't track. "How many do you think will come?" Jonas whispered. "Depends on how seriously they take the threat." Saint checked his watch. "Could be 2 scouts. Could be 20 enforcers. Either way, we're not here to fight." "Then why are we here?" To deliver a message, Saint pulled out a small device, looked like a modified tablet. Your mother's evidence is encrypted on 7 different servers across 4 countries. We've had it backed up since we cracked her phone. Tonight, we're going to show the syndicate that if anything happens to you, to us, or to anyone she saved, that evidence goes live. Every news outlet, every federal agency, every police department in 6 states. You've had this set up for 2 years and never used it? We were waiting for the right moment. When the syndicate was vulnerable, distracted, Saint's jaw tightened. Your mother made us promise to be patient. To wait until we could end them completely, not just wound them. And now's that moment? Now they've forced our hand. Saint looked at Jonas directly. They know about you. That changes everything. We can't protect you by hiding anymore, so we protect you by making you untouchable. If you become the trigger that destroys them, they can't risk hurting you. A low whistle cut through the air. Marcus's signal, movement at the north entrance. Saint and Jonas went perfectly still. 3 vehicles rolled into the shipping yard, headlights off, moving slowly. They stopped in the open area near the center, forming a triangle. Doors opened. Men stepped out, 8 of them, dressed in dark clothes, moving with military precision. Jonas's breath caught. This was real. These were the people who'd made teenagers fight in concrete pits. Who'd killed 3 of his mother's rescues. Who'd hunted her until she disappeared. One man stood apart from the others. Tall, mid-50s, wearing an expensive coat that looked ridiculous in a place like this. Even from a distance, Jonas could feel the authority radiating from him. The broker, Saint breathed. He never comes to meetings. This is bigger than I thought. The broker walked to the center of the triangle and stopped. He didn't look around nervously. Didn't check for ambushes. Just stood there like a man who owned the world and knew it. Falcon's child, the broker's voice carried across the empty space, amplified somehow. I know you're watching. Show yourself and we can have a civilized conversation. Jonas started to stand, but Saint pulled him down. Not yet, Saint whispered. He raised his hand, gave a signal. Reyna emerged from behind a container, walking into the open with her hands visible, empty. She stopped 30 feet from the broker. Jonas Reed isn't here, she said clearly. But the Falcon's wing is. And we have something you need to see. The broker tilted his head. Reyna Martinez. I remember you. You fought for us once. 8 years ago, wasn't it? Before Falcon corrupted you. She freed me. She stole valuable property. The broker's voice stayed pleasant, conversational. We invested time and money training you. She helped you abandon your contracts. That's theft, Ms. Martinez. The contracts were slavery. Semantics. The broker waved his hand dismissively. Where's the boy? Safe. And he's going to stay that way. Reyna pulled out a tablet identical to Saint's. I'm going to show you something. I suggest you pay attention. She tapped the screen. A projector, hidden somewhere in the container stacks, lit up the side of a shipping container. Video began to play. Jonas's mother appeared on the makeshift screen, 20 feet tall, her bruised face clear in the night. The video Saint had shown him earlier, her warning about the evidence, her documentation of the syndicate's operation. But then the video continued past where it had ended before. I've recorded everything, Falcon said on screen. Every fight. Every transaction. Every face. I have bank accounts, wire transfers, property records. I have video of federal officials taking bribes. I have testimony from 17 rescued fighters willing to go on record. If anything happens to me, or to anyone I've saved, this evidence goes public. The video cut to a new image, documents, spreadsheets, photographs. A comprehensive indictment of the entire operation. The broker's pleasant expression never changed, but his hands clenched. "That's a powerful threat," he said when the video ended. "Or it would be, if Falcon were still alive." "She's dead," Reyna agreed. "But her insurance policy isn't. The evidence is backed up and ready to release. All it takes is one command. And what stops me from taking that tablet from you?" "Nothing. The tablet's just for show," Reyna smiled without humor. "The real trigger is with someone you'll never find. Someone who has strict instructions. If the Falcon's wing stops checking in every 48 hours, everything goes public. If Jonas Reed is harmed, everything goes public. If anyone on Falcon's list of rescued fighters is touched, everything goes public." The broker was quiet for a moment. Then he laughed, a genuine sound that echoed off the containers. "You're bluffing. If you really had this set up, you would have used it years ago." "We were honoring Falcon's wishes," Reyna said. "She wanted to wait until the evidence was complete. Until we had everything we needed to end you permanently, not just inconvenience you. And now? Now you made it personal. You came after her son." Reyna's voice turned cold. "That changes the rules." The broker studied her, then looked around at the shipping yard. Jonas knew he was calculating, trying to figure out how many wing members were hidden, where they were positioned, what his odds were. "An interesting dilemma," the broker finally said. "If I kill the boy, you release the evidence and destroy my operation. If I leave him alone, I look weak. My competitors will smell blood. There's a third option," Saint's voice called out as he stood up, Jonas beside him. "You disappear. Shut down the fighting rings, disappear the trafficking networks, and vanish. We keep the evidence locked away, and you get to live quietly somewhere far from here." Jonas's heart pounded as the broker's attention fixed on him. "Falcon's son," the broker said softly. "You look like her. Same eyes. Same stubborn jaw." He took a step forward. "Your mother cost me millions of dollars and years of work. She humiliated me in front of my associates. And you think I'll simply walk away because of some videos?" "I think you'll walk away because the alternative is prison," Jonas said, surprised his voice didn't shake. "Or worse." The broker smiled. "There are things worse than prison, boy. Ask your mother." "Oh wait, you can't. Because she spent 3 years hiding in fear before dying alone." Jonas felt rage surge through him, but Saint's hand on his shoulder kept him still. "She died free," Jonas said. "Can you say the same?" The broker's smile faded. He gestured to his men. They climbed back into their vehicles without a word. The broker took one last look around the shipping yard, at Reyna, at Saint and Jonas, at the shadows where he knew others were hiding. "This isn't over," he said. "A piece of paper doesn't stop bullets." "No," Marcus called out from his container perch. "But 18 witnesses with cameras do." "Say hello to the internet, broker. We've been streaming this whole conversation." The broker's face went rigid. He got in his vehicle without another word. All 3 cars rolled out of the iron yard, leaving only tire tracks and silence. Jonas's legs felt weak. He sat down hard on the gravel. "Did we really stream that?" he asked. Saint shook his head. "No. But he won't know for sure until he checks. And by then, he'll be too paranoid to make a move." Reyna walked back over, tucking her tablet away. "We bought time. Maybe a few weeks. Maybe less." "Enough time to do what?" Jonas asked. Saint helped him stand. "Enough time to finish what your mother started." Jonas couldn't sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the broker's face, heard his voice talking about his mother dying alone. Saint had driven him home at 3 in the morning, made sure Lucy was asleep, and told Jonas to rest. Rest. Like that was possible now. He sat on his bed, holding his mother's phone, scrolling through the video files again. There were dozens he hadn't watched yet, fight footage, surveillance recordings, conversations with people she'd saved. A whole secret life contained in encrypted data. Then he found a folder he'd missed before. It was labeled simply, "For Jonas." His finger hovered over it for a long moment before he tapped it open. One video file. The thumbnail showed his mother sitting in a dim room, looking directly at the camera. She looked tired. Older than he remembered. This must have been recorded near the end, when she was already in hiding. Jonas plugged in headphones so he wouldn't wake Lucy. He pressed play. His mother's face filled the screen. She was sitting on a bed in a room he didn't recognize, bare walls, a single window with curtains drawn. She took a breath, steadying herself, then began to speak. "Jonas. Baby. If you're watching this, then Saint finally decided you were old enough to understand." Her voice cracked slightly. "I've started this recording about 20 times. I never know what to say." She wiped her eyes, not crying yet but close. "I want you to know I didn't leave because I stopped loving you. I left because I loved you too much to watch them use you against me. The syndicate, the people I was fighting, they don't just kill you. They hurt everyone you love first. They make you watch. And I couldn't." She stopped, composed herself. "I couldn't risk that happening to you." Jonas felt tears on his own cheeks. "You were 7 when I left. Do you remember the last time I tucked you in? You asked me why I smelled like smoke, and I told you I'd been at a bonfire with friends. That was a lie. I'd been in a fight that night. Won it, but barely. Came home with bruised ribs and I still picked you up, held you, read you that book about the dragon you loved." Jonas remembered. The book was still on his shelf. He'd read it so many times the pages were falling out. "I fought in those pits for 18 months. Broke bones. Lost blood. Got concussions that made me forget my own name for hours." His mother leaned closer to the camera. "And every single time, I thought about you. Every punch I took, every fight I won, it was all to save kids who reminded me of what you might become if I failed. If I let the syndicate keep operating." She paused, looking down at her hands. "I saved 17 teenagers. Got them out of hell and gave them a chance at normal lives. I'm proud of that. But you know what? If I could go back and choose differently, if I could have saved those kids or kept you in my life, I would have chosen you. Every time. Without hesitation." Jonas's chest felt tight, like he couldn't breathe. "People are going to tell you I was a hero. That I was strong, brave, selfless. Maybe that's true. But here's what they won't tell you: I cried every single night after I left you. I kept a picture of you in my pocket during fights. I would have given up everything, my mission, the rescues, all of it, if I could have held you one more time." She wiped tears from her face, smearing them across her bruised cheek. "But I couldn't come back. The syndicate was watching. They knew about you. If I'd shown up, if they'd seen us together even once, they would have taken you. Used you to control me. Made me fight for them until I died in some concrete pit while you watched. I couldn't let that happen." His mother's voice dropped to almost a whisper. "So I stayed away. I lived in cheap motels and safe houses. I stopped using my real name. I watched from a distance while you grew up without me. Saint sent me pictures sometimes, birthdays, school plays, you learning to ride a bike. I have them all memorized." She smiled through her tears. "I don't know how much longer I have. This infection in my side isn't getting better, and I can't risk going to a hospital. So I'm recording this now, while I still can. I need you to know the truth about why I left. Not the version Saint will tell you, that I was protecting you, that I was doing the right thing. Here's the real truth, baby, I was terrified." Jonas had never heard his mother admit to being scared before. Even in his memories, she'd been fearless. I was terrified of failing you. Of the syndicate finding you. Of you growing up thinking I didn't love you. Of dying before I could explain. She pressed her hand against the camera, like she was trying to touch him through the screen. If they can't use your fists, they'll use your child. That's what I learned. That's why I had to disappear. Because my love for you was the biggest weapon they could ever have against me. She lowered her hand. You were never abandoned, Jonas. You were protected. And I know that doesn't make it hurt less. I know you probably hate me for leaving. Maybe you should. But I need you to understand, every choice I made for you. Every fight, every sacrifice, every lonely night. All for you. Her expression changed, became firmer. The warrior showing through the mother. Now I'm going to ask something of you. Don't try to finish what I started. Don't try to fight the syndicate. Don't become what I was. The world doesn't need another Falcon. It needs Jonas Reed, whoever you choose to be, whatever life you choose to live. Promise me you'll be safe. Promise me you'll be happy. Promise me my sacrifice meant something. She stared into the camera for a long moment, memorizing it, like she could somehow see him watching from the future. I love you, baby. I loved you the moment you were born, and I'll love you even after I'm gone. You were the best thing I ever did. Not the rescues, not the fights, you. Just you. The video ended. Jonas sat in the darkness of his room, headphones still in, tears streaming down his face. He played the video again. Then again. And again. His mother hadn't been fearless. She'd been terrified. But she'd done it anyway. Left everything she loved to keep him safe. Jonas finally understood what courage really meant. 2 weeks passed in a strange kind of silence. No more burned warehouses. No more threatening messages. The syndicate had gone quiet, and that made everyone nervous. Saint said it meant the broker was regrouping, planning his next move. Reyna said it meant he was scared. Marcus said it didn't matter, silence always came before storms. Jonas went to school, came home, did his homework. Lucy watched him with worried eyes but didn't ask questions. She'd seen the news about the warehouse fire, had pieced together that Jonas was involved somehow. But she also understood that some conversations happened when they were ready, not before. On the 15th day, Jonas walked to the Ridgeway garage after school. The metal shutters were up. Motorcycles lined the walls again. The sound of tools on metal rang through the space. Normal work, normal life, like the past 2 weeks had never happened. Saint looked up from an engine he was rebuilding. Wondered when you'd come back. Can we talk? Saint wiped his hands on a rag and nodded toward the office. They walked past bikers who gave Jonas respectful nods, not pity, not wariness, just acknowledgement. Like he'd earned something by surviving. In the office, Saint closed the door and leaned against the desk. You watched it, didn't you? The video she left for you. Jonas nodded. His throat felt tight. She recorded that 3 months before she died, Saint said quietly. Asked me to keep it locked until you were old enough. 15 felt right. She was scared, Jonas said. In the video. She cried. Yeah. Everyone kept telling me she was this fearless warrior. This legend. But she was just scared. Like anyone would be. That's what made her brave, Saint said. Courage isn't not being afraid. It's being terrified and doing it anyway. He paused. She cried a lot those last few years. Especially when I'd send her pictures of you. But she never regretted keeping you safe. Jonas looked around the office, at the trophies, the photographs, the map with its red pins marking places his mother had saved lives. I want to join, he said. Saint straightened. Join what? The Falcon's Wing. I want to help finish what she started. No. You don't even know what I'm. I know exactly what you're asking, and the answer is no. Saint's voice was firm but not unkind. Your mother specifically asked us to keep you out of this life. She didn't want you fighting, didn't want you becoming what she was. Then what am I supposed to do? Just pretend none of this happened? You're supposed to live. Saint moved to the corkboard and unpinned the photograph of Jonas's mother standing between the motorcycles. He handed it to Jonas. She fought so you wouldn't have to. Honor that. Jonas stared at the photograph. His mother looked so alive in it, so fierce. But he'd seen her crying in that video. Seen her scared and alone and dying from an infection she couldn't treat. I don't want to fight, Jonas said slowly. But I don't want to be useless either. Saint studied him for a long moment. Then he walked to a cabinet and pulled out a leather vest, smaller than the others, newer. A blank hawk patch was sewn on the back, not copper like the originals but silver. Unfinished. Your mother had this made for you, Saint said. Before she disappeared. She said if you ever wanted to join the wing, you had to earn the copper. Start with silver. Jonas took the vest carefully. It smelled like new leather and possibility. What does earning it mean? It means learning what we actually do. Not the fighting, that was only one part of what your mother did. She also taught people skills. Helped them find jobs. Set up safe houses. Built networks. Saint's expression softened. The wing isn't just about rescuing people from pits anymore, Jonas. It's about giving them lives after. Your mother wanted to build something that lasted longer than her fights. Like this gym. The recovery center. Exactly. And we need help maintaining it. Teaching mechanics, basic repairs, job skills. Saint gestured toward the garage. Half the people working here are former fighters who needed a second chance. Your mother set that up before she left. We've kept it going. Jonas looked down at the vest in his hands. You want me to work here? Really work, not just clean. I want you to learn. Bike maintenance, engine repair, maybe some coding if you're interested. We need someone to keep our encrypted systems running. Real skills that can help people rebuild their lives. Saint's voice turned serious. No concrete pits. No vigilante justice. No becoming your mother. Just honest work that happens to help people she would have wanted to save. Jonas ran his fingers over the silver hawk patch. It wasn't what he'd expected. Wasn't dramatic or heroic or the kind of thing people made murals about. But maybe that was the point. She really made this for me? 2 weeks before she staged the accident. She told me, if my boy ever wants to fly, make sure he knows hawks do more than fight. They protect. They watch. They build nests for the future. Saint smiled slightly. Your mother was more than a fighter, Jonas. She was a builder. And she hoped you'd be the same. Jonas put on the vest. It fit perfectly, like she'd somehow known exactly what size he'd be at 15. When do I start? Tomorrow morning. 6 a.m. Bring coffee, you're going to need it. Saint opened the office door, then paused. Jonas? Your mother would be proud. Not because you're joining the fight, but because you're choosing to help. There's a difference. Jonas nodded, not trusting his voice. He walked through the garage wearing the vest, feeling the weight of it, the responsibility. Bikers looked up as he passed, and he saw approval in their eyes. Not because he was Falcon's son. Because he was Jonas Reed, choosing his own path. Outside, the sun was setting, painting the sky orange and purple. Jonas pulled out his phone and looked at the last frame of his mother's video, her hand pressed against the camera, reaching for him across time. I'm not replacing you, Mom, he whispered. I'm just trying to finish what you believed in. The wind picked up, carrying the smell of oil and leather and possibility. Somewhere in the distance, a hawk cried out. Jonas smiled and headed home. 4 months later, Jonas stood on the bank of the Clearwater River, watching the sunrise paint the water gold. He wasn't alone. 17 people stood with him in a loose semicircle, some his age, some older, all of them connected by a single thread. His mother had saved their lives. Saint had helped Jonas track them down over the past months. Phone calls, emails, careful messages through encrypted channels. Not all of them could come. 3 lived overseas now, 2 were in witness protection and couldn't risk exposure. But 12 had made the journey, traveling from California, Montana, Tennessee, and places in between. Jonas had spent the morning learning their names, hearing their stories. Marcus he already knew, the bald man from the wing who'd been pulled from a pit at 16 with a broken jaw. He ran a youth center in Detroit now, teaching kids boxing as sport, not survival. There was Diana, 28, who his mother had rescued when she was 14. She was a nurse in Sacramento, working in an ER, saving lives the way someone had once saved hers. Kevin, 25, who'd been trafficked at 13 and forced to fight for 2 years before Falcon got him out. He taught high school English in Nashville, helping kids who reminded him of who he'd been. Sarah, 30, the first person his mother ever saved. She owned a small bakery in Portland and had 3 children who would never know the darkness their mother had escaped. Each of them carried a stone, river rocks they'd found along the bank, smooth and solid. Jonas had asked them to bring something permanent, something that would last. "Thank you all for coming," Jonas said, his voice carrying over the quiet rush of water. "I know some of you traveled far. I know some of you haven't talked about this part of your lives in years." Diana stepped forward, clutching her stone. "We came because she gave us the chance to have lives worth living. The least we can do is remember." "I want to do more than remember," Jonas said. He pulled a hawk-shaped stone from his pocket. He'd spent 3 weeks carving it, getting the wings right, making it perfect. "I want to build something. My mom fought to pull you out of darkness. I want to create something that pulls others toward light." He knelt and placed the hawk stone on the ground, starting a circle. One by one, the others stepped forward and added their stones. Marcus placed his at the hawk's right wing. Diana at the left. Kevin at the tail. Sarah at the head. The circle grew, each stone a life saved, a future built, a promise kept. When all 12 stones were placed, Jonas stood back and looked at what they'd created, a permanent memorial, hidden on a riverbank where his mother used to come to think. Saint had told him about this place, said Falcon would sit here for hours after difficult rescues, watching the water and remembering why she fought. "She never wanted me to be a fighter," Jonas said to the group. "She wanted me to be a builder. So that's what I'm doing." He told them about the workshop he'd started in the back of the Ridgeway garage. How he spent his afternoons teaching young people, some of them former foster kids, some runaways, some just lost, how to rebuild motorcycle engines, how to weld, how to fix things that seemed broken beyond repair. "It's not dramatic," Jonas said. "Nobody's going to paint murals about teaching a 17-year-old how to change spark plugs. But my mom understood something I'm just learning: you don't have to fight in pits to save lives. Sometimes you save them by teaching people they have value. That they can build something with their hands. That broken doesn't mean worthless." Marcus smiled. That's exactly what she believed. That's why she set up the recovery gym, the job training programs. She knew escaping the pit was just the beginning. "The workshop is growing," Jonas continued. "We've got 12 regular students now. Saint is teaching welding. Raina is teaching self-defense, the kind that's about confidence, not violence. Marcus drives down once a month to teach conflict resolution." He looked around the circle. "We're calling it Falcon's Nest. A place for people who need to rebuild." Sarah wiped tears from her eyes. She would love that. The name, the purpose, all of it. There's something else, Jonas said. He pulled out a folder and handed copies to everyone. I've been working with a journalist, someone Saint trusts. We're publishing my mother's evidence. Not all of it, but enough to shut down 3 major trafficking networks in the southeast. The story runs next week. The group went silent. The broker? Kevin asked. Disappeared 2 months ago, Saint said, stepping forward to join the circle. Either went underground or his associates took care of him. Either way, the syndicate's fractured. We're not claiming victory, there are always more rats, but we've cut off the head. Your identities are protected in the article. Everything's been verified by federal investigators. It's happening. Jonas looked at each person in turn. My mother couldn't finish this alone. But together, we can. Not by fighting, by building systems that make the fights unnecessary. Support networks. Job training. Safe houses. Education. All the things that keep people from ending up in pits in the first place. Diana stepped forward and hugged Jonas tightly. Then Sarah. Then Kevin. One by one, they embraced him, not because he was Falcon's son, but because he understood what she'd been fighting for. As the sun rose higher, Jonas knelt beside the stone circle one last time. He pulled out a small metal plate he'd engraved at the workshop and pressed it into the earth at the circle's center. The inscription read, Falcon. She didn't fly to escape. She flew so others could. The group stood together as the river flowed past, carrying away the darkness of what had been and leaving space for what could be built. Jonas looked up at the sky and saw a hawk circling overhead, probably just hunting, probably just coincidence. But he chose to believe it was something more. A promise kept. A life honored. A future worth building. Thank you, Mom, he whispered. I'm not trying to replace you. I'm just trying to be worthy of what you gave me. The hawk cried out once, then flew west toward the rising sun. Jonas stood with the people his mother saved, wearing his silver hawk vest, and knew exactly what he was building, not a legacy of violence, but a legacy of hope. And that, he realized, was the strongest thing anyone could create. The end.